Well, Pyke has been out for around 3 weeks, and I have been very closely keeping an eye on how he's doing in the game. Now, I decided that I'd give him at least a 2-week grace period, just so the pros could get a hold of him, they could learn how to play him, and figure out what exactly it is that he excels at before I started diving into what is wrong with him. I mean, it's pretty obvious to anybody that when a new champion is released to the game, the win rate is going to be a little bit low before people start actually learning how to play him, just because people go into ranked and first time him and all that kind of stuff. But a little over 3 weeks I thought was, in my opinion, a decent amount of time to give a champion to level out their win rate, to be learned to a comfortable degree, and to be able to win a decent amount of games to start climbing in that win rate. The reason for my interest is pretty simple. Pyke is the first of his kind. He is the very first assassin support that Riot Games has ever created. And I know, yes, Brand exists, yes, Zyra exists, yes, Lux exists, but the difference is these are all champions that were designed for the mid lane. They just happened to be transitioned into bot, and they were there to do damage. This is technically the first ever support that was actually just designed to do damage. He's a champion that is encouraged to kill steal because he gives gold to the rest of his team. He's a champion that is so different from anything we've ever seen in League before that, you know, you really can't help but just wonder how that's going to perform in game. Also, I'm primarily interested in his success in solo queue because I happened to make a video before his release called Why Pyke is Not Going to Be OP, and if there's one thing that I hold above all else, it's my ravenous desire to always be correct and have people confirm my suspicions with likes and subscriptions. So, with my very basic knowledge of Pyke at the time, I made some assumptions that the fact that his passive, which stops him from gaining any bonus health, would be a very big factor into his lack of success. You just get blown up way too easily. That Zed, one shot. That Riven, one shot. That Janna that is stacking full AP and is basically She-Hulk right now, one shot. And as it would turn out though, this would just come about to be one of many damning factors into Pyke's kit that make him incredibly difficult of a champion to adapt to, and potentially one of the main reasons for his downfall in the solo queue ladder. But what are the other factors that make Pyke kinda crappy? I mean, he's quite literally the lowest win rate conventional support in the game. I mean, he's above these three, but I mean, you kinda gotta work hard to be lower win rate than Rise, so I don't really know if that's an achievement. I mean, actually, what's Karma doing there? Like, why is Karma so low? Is it just because people just build her so they can do damage and go ham too often? I have no idea why I expected her to be way higher on this list. I did not expect her to be next to Rise support. Anyway, I think one of the largest reasons why Pyke isn't seeing too much success in solo queue is down to the fact that he is a support assassin, I guess you could call him. And as we all know, assassin players and support players are very different playstyles. And as you probably know, they don't really tend to mingle in terms of the roles that they play. If you're an assassin player, you like playing Zed, you like playing champions like Talon, you probably don't play a whole lot of support. You like to get big plays, you like to one-shot people, you like to get big fat kills. You are not used to getting no gold in lane and basically relying on small, low-cost items that will help you be more efficient and actually having to hang back at the risk of getting one-shot by a Nami. He very much appeals to this strange, very niche, small demographic of players who play both assassins and supports. And honestly, I don't really think people are cut out for doing those two gameplay types. For instance, if you were a support main, you play mostly Janna, you play mostly Sona, all these Soraka characters, these characters that usually are very passive, they usually hang back. They're not necessarily playmaker champions, although they contribute a very large amount to a team. You move to playing Zed, you're probably going to have absolutely zero idea what it is you were doing. Sure, you'll probably play the game, but at the end of the day, your judgment, your kind of knowing your limits of your character are going to be a lot less than somebody who strictly plays assassins and knows exactly what they're doing. Support is just a far more passive playstyle, and playing an assassin is very much the opposite. And the same applies. If you're an assassin player and you are used to playing aggressive, you're used to 100% all-inning at 6 even if the enemy is full HP with every summoner spell up, if you move to the support role, you're going to be playing way too aggressive. Your AD carry or whatever champion happens to be in your bot lane at that time, I don't know. Man, you're not even going to give that guy a chance to farm. You're just going to be trying to all-in at 2. Then you're like, okay, we died. All-in at 3 now, baby. Okay, that didn't work. Well, maybe we can all-in at 5 and see what happens. This is just not playstyles that are cut out for one another. Sure, there are very aggressive supports in the bot lane. Do not get me wrong, but the difference is, a lot of these aggressive supports have a very, very tanky kit or a lot of damage mitigation that helps them survive those very aggressive plays early game. Alistar, he's got his knockups, he's got a lot of CC, on top of that he's also got a stun, and of course his passive heals him, so you can go in for small skirmishes, you can back off, you can sustain up a little bit and then go in again, etc, rinse and repeat. Same with Leona, her W gives her an absurd amount of magic resist and armor, and she can just go in and take a bunch of damage, it's not that big a deal. Thresh, his souls give him passive armor, he's able to do these things, and a lot of the time when you go in with these champions, if you're against a lane that isn't also a tank support, the enemy tends to run away, so you don't have to worry too much about getting too much damage onto you, whereas Pyke, if he dives onto you and he uses all of his spells, well, you've kind of got yourself a sitting duck on your hands that doesn't have any HP. You can pretty much just blow that boy up if you actually happen to be playing one of these tankier supports. I mean, sure, Pyke has like ridiculous regeneration on his passive if he goes out of sight of the enemy, but if the enemy are warding halfway decently, then you're going to have to go so far back in lane that you're basically going to be outside of XP range. And at that point, you're falling behind. And on top of this, like we said, he has 2 mobility spells, which is great, which is far more than pretty much any other champion in the game. He has 2 spells which help him either get in or out. The thing is though, you're probably going to have to use at least one of them to actually get into a fight to begin with. And if things start going wrong, or if the enemy decides that they want to focus you, you better hope that you didn't use both to get in, otherwise you are very, very screwed. It seems like the actual strategy for playing Pyke in a team fight is not to engage or not to even really try and follow up, but to wait for the enemy team to have somebody low enough for you to get an ulti off, so you can actually just swoop in and take the kill and get a bit of gold onto yourself and onto your team. And at that point, you're kind of wondering if you really should just be playing another character. Like, he has a lot of kit that's pretty good, but at the same time, there are any other support that could be doing something that he does a lot better. He has his pool, but I mean, you could be playing Thresh, and Thresh does a decent amount of damage, he's got a lot of CC, and he's tankier. He doesn't really need to worry as much about silly engages or going into fights, because the chances are people are pretty much not going to hit Thresh because he is actually very, very tanky. And on the flip side, sure, Pyke does damage, he does a decent amount of damage, but I'd say arguably a good Brand or a good Zyra probably does a lot more damage, and it's all AoE. So if you really want to play Pyke because you like doing damage, you're kind of better off playing these champions because you're going to have a bigger impact damage-wise, and the numbers are just going to be so much bigger. As well as that, of course, these champions are ranged. They can cast everything from a safe distance at their backline, a luxury with which Pyke does not really have. So when it comes down to it, the only real defining factor that Pyke really has, the thing that sets him above every other support, is the fact that he can put gold on himself as well as the last person who got the kill if he gets an ulti reset. But if Pyke is either getting blown up because he's frontlining, or doing nothing and waiting for kills because he's a backline, at that point, is the gold even really making a difference? The detection range on his camouflage is pretty big. He basically requires spoon feeding of kills from team engages. He doesn't work very well if the enemy team actually know how to deal with them. He doesn't do as much damage as your other conventionally damagey supports. He's not tanky, and he's not ranged. I guess he's pretty good for mitigating armor of tanks and finishing them off when they're low HP. But beyond that, I mean, Pyke is a really, really fun champion, don't get me wrong. Like, I think he's cool. I think his aesthetic is cool. I think his spells are cool. And I think he plays nicely. But all that aside, champion-wise, like performance-wise, how he fits into a team, I just don't think he's cut out for climbing in solo queue with them. Never mind competitive play. And I mean, he falls into the pitfalls of any assassin as well. If he falls behind, he falls way too far behind. And that's just a coin flip that I think a lot of players don't really want to take. If you feed on Alistar, you can still do very well and succeed as a team with an incredibly underfed Alistar. But if you have an underfed 0 and 6 Pyke on your team, well, you're kind of out of luck on that one. Honestly, I think you could see some really great quality of life changes if his camouflage detection rate was pulled down a bit so he had a better chance of getting in and out of fights, and potentially not allowing him to get 100% of the bonus health that you buy on him, but maybe allowing him to get like 25 to 50% of the actual usage of health items on him to at least beef him up a little bit. Because in his current form, he's just way too easy to blow up, even if you buy armor items, which as an assassin, you're really not going to do beyond the GA. But what do you think about Pyke? I've given all my information, I've given my thoughts on why I think Pyke is just a bit of a nightmare, but I think he's salvageable. There's some changes that could be made to make Pyke not only a fun support to play, but actually successful in the current meta. And it's weird because in the current meta, you'd think that plays and picks like this would actually work really well because there's a whole lot of like kill lanes and stuff happening in bot lane, but you put our Pyke up against a Renekton, that Renekton is going to completely one-shot him at like even level 4. You do not want to put a Renekton bot lane against the Pyke. It's just a free lane down there, okay? So I don't know if I want to take any of the suggestions on board, but something definitely needs to be done if we want the first ever support in the game that is like this to be a success. So let me know what you think in the comment section. If you did enjoy this video or if you learned anything, please feel free to like it. Thank you guys all so much for the support. And if you did enjoy this video, please join the sock jar, join the community, and subscribe as well. Take care. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.